And welcome back to our fasting review. Yeah. Man, what a week this has been. This is Dr. Dwain Woode, and we are in for a treat because we're reviewing fasting, how to get into a fast, how to make it through the fast, and of course, how to break the fast. If you've been following us this week, you know this has been one of those amazing weeks with lots of things going, lots of moving parts. We launched our new show. We launched our new idea. We launched a new program this week, the Health Action Plan, and we've been kind of walking through that as we move through this week. And it has been amazing in its impact on our community, on me personally, and we'll talk about that here in just a little while. You know, we do like we do. We've got some things that we're going to be taking a look at, and I am so excited that you have joined me for this review, this fasting review that we're going to be doing. We'll tell you a little bit about what's been going on with me in a little while, but if you have been following us on our journey, if you've been with us in the Limitless Living family, in the Limitless Living pathway, you know that we have been amping up our game, right? So we've been hitting the road. We've been putting our mouth where our money is, or money where our mouth is. As we move into aligning our lives and the things that we do with the thing we say we want to be, with the health we say we want to have. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. If you are new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that I'm happy that you are here. I am talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who want to get off of diabetes medications, and all the people who want to improve their metabolism. Anything from high blood pressure, high cholesterol, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fatty liver, obesity, all of those things are spectrums along the course leading to diabetes. And in this space, we are here to say, hey, we don't have to go out like that. We are walking in a limitless living pathway, which says that we're not allowing anything to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We're presenting our best self, our best health, and our best plans. We're breaking free from those boundaries. If you've been following us or if you're new to us, we're going to show you some of the things that we do here. I've got off to my side my glucose monitors. Then we're going to take a look at my Keto Mojo, which gives me my glucose and my ketones. I've got my contour meter, and then of course right down below me you'll see my Dexcom Clarity Report, which we'll take a look at to see what's been going on with my blood sugars over the last week or so, and we'll look specifically at my reports on my CGMs. If you, as you know, you may not know that I wear two continuous glucose monitors. I've got a Dexcom and I've got a Libre on that helps me to track my information, and then of course helps you as you look at those numbers again. Also, if you are new or if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments because we'd love to welcome you and love to answer those questions as we move throughout this space. The other thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using, some of the food that I use to break the fast, right? To break the fast. But let's hop over and let's take a look at numbers and we'll set the tone. So before that, let's go through and talk about what's been going on. So we have been working in this space to reverse metabolism. We've been working to improve our blood sugars. We've been working to lose weight. We've been working to improve our blood pressure and our high cholesterol. Some people are working to get off of medications. And a matter of fact, several people in our community have been able to get off of their insulin pump, get off of their medications. We have one of our community members who says that for over 40 years has not been below 200 pounds, and so finally for the first time in all that time has been below 200 and is rocking it. You know my personal story of being over 285 pounds, and now, and we'll take a look at my weight here in a little while so you can see what has been going on with that as well. But in that whole space, the question is, and the question that you have and a lot of people have, is what is the path? What is the strategy? What is the thing that I need to do? There are lots of ways of managing metabolism. Let me say that. There are a lot of tools that you can use to manage metabolism. They tell me that for adults, that most people for a particular year, if you go through a 365-day period, most people try at least one or two diets or meal plans in terms of managing their blood sugars, managing their weight, managing their cholesterol, their high blood pressure, and all the metabolic diseases that we talk about. 2 per year. Of all the people who lose weight, of all the people, if you take everybody who's ever tried to lose weight, 99% of the people who lose weight put it back on. And so something is not working. Something is not going right. We've got all these people who are on the GLP-1 receptor agonists. Those are the things like Ozempic and Zepbound and Wegovy and Mounjaro. And I am a proponent for those medications. That's right. I raise my hand. I'm a proponent for them. Because finally, we have something that is causing and helping us with significant improvement in our metabolic disease and in our weight. Okay, so a proponent of those. One of the issues that we have is that when we put people on those medications, we don't do the background work. We don't do the base work that sets them up to be successful long after the medication. So people who are on those medications, they lose weight. They have improvement in their blood sugars. And for some reason, they can't take the medication. Either they have a side effect of the medication, or their insurance no longer pays for the medication, or their copay for the medication is too much, or the supply is down. Because we had that, as a matter of fact, we are just now coming off of the heels of having those, having a supply issue. And so for whatever reason, people were not able to take the medication. And when we don't do the background work, when we don't do the work that is the foundation, then we end up putting back on the weight and we end up having issues. And that's the reason why we are not able to maintain weight. And so, as I have been struggling with my own, and if you know me, as a matter of fact, several years ago now, we lived in Atlanta, and a friend of ours who hadn't seen us for a while came to visit, and he walked in, and we were talking, and he said, I'm hearing your voice, but I don't recognize the body. Because at that time, like I said, I was over 285 pounds. And people ask me a question, well, what was the issue? And the issue was the things that we're talking about, the background, right? As we've walked through the domains of health, we've talked about the fact that your life is really like a wheel, right? Think about a wheel, and there are all these spokes that are supporting the wheel as the wheel is moving. And if the spokes are stable, if the spokes are aligned, then the wheel moves very smoothly. But if it doesn't, if there's one area that's not functioning, or another area that's a little bent, or another area that you're not paying attention to, guess what? That is a pretty rough ride. And so that's why we spend time as we move into this space talking about the fact that our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health, our social health, our spiritual health, all of those have a significant impact on how we manage chronic disease and our metabolic diseases. Because the thing that pushes us is not the disease, but is the thing that puts us in a space where we begin buffering. And buffering, those behaviors that we use to blunt a feeling, to ignore a feeling, to procrastinate, to separate us from that pain that comes from it. And most often, right, what do we use? We use food. And so in this space, we are in the process of saying, how do we realign or rethink our relationship with food? And fasting is one of those amazing ways of doing that. Okay? Right, so that's the basis for what we're doing. And this past Monday, we introduced the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, which says that there are some key things that we've got to do if you're at the beginning of your journey, if you are in the middle of your journey, if you've had complications along your journey. What are the things that I can do personally that creates or rights, if you will, improves those things, how do I prevent myself from going down that path in the first place? So we have this idea that there is a point in time at which, okay, at that time things are going to happen. Well, it's a spectrum. It's progressive. Diabetes, for example, is a silent disease. High blood pressure is a silent disease. You don't have symptoms until you have symptoms. And one of the most common, I want you to listen to this, one of the most common presenting symptoms of diabetes is not, hey, we had some high blood sugar, or hey, we had this. It is people who have heart attacks who show up at the hospital and somebody says, oh my goodness, look at your blood sugar. And we don't want to go down that path. And so we're talking in this space about how do we improve that, and we've been using fasting. Okay, so with that as a backdrop, so I do on my show, Dwain Woode MD Live, every week, we are walking through the path, right? Laying out the foundation and the basis for how do we improve. That's what we're doing. As we do that, there are several tools that we learn, right? So we have our walking series that we did. We just concluded a 100-day walk. We just started our strength strategy and mindset. If you've not done that yet, you want to make sure that you get out there and watch it and come along with us as we are. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking, I'm going to go ahead and try to pull that up so you can see that. As I am, here's the secret. You get a front row seat to see the things that I'm talking about as I'm walking through them. Ah, man, look at that. Right? You get to watch me. And I'm going to tell you a story here in just a minute about this week and how that manifested itself, because life happens, right? Life happens. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of our episodes on our strength training and strength strategy and mindset, if I can. Well, we'll work on that here in just a minute. But you want to make sure that you join us for that process. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars, right? So if you look on the screen, you'll see right now, and so this is my Contour app. Let's go ahead and take a look at my Libre. So my Libre right now says that blood sugar is 73, and I'm looking at this graph right about here. You see, for most of the day, my blood sugar has been below 100. And here's the story, right? So we do a fast every week, and I do a 72-hour fast. And the reason I do a 72-hour fast is that I want you to be able to see the transformations that happen as I go through the fast. Often, when we do a fast and we're telling people about a fast, we do maybe at 12 and 12, 16 and 8, maybe even a 24-hour. And that's great. And we recommend at least a 24-hour period for everybody once a week, people who are able to do that, unless you are pregnant, nursing, you're a child, or you have a history of eating disorder, right? Everybody else should be able to do a 24-hour fast once a week without any complications. Always check with your healthcare provider. But so this week, so we do a 72-hour fast. And so on Tuesdays, I usually start the fast. And on Tuesday, I started the fast at noon. So noon the next day would have been 24 hours. And I got through 24 hours. And then on Monday night, right? So now Wednesday night, I was up taping an episode of our show. It was midnight. I had to do some other things here. And so I'm in the space and I'm, doing my video and editing the video and putting some things together. And I got up and I walked into the kitchen, I grabbed a piece of cheese and I ate it. Now notice, right? So the behavior is automatic, it's rote. So I ate a piece of cheese, and as I came back and I said, wait a minute, oh my goodness, right? So that would have been about 33 hours or thereabouts. So restarted the fast. And we'll talk a little bit more about limitless living here in a while. Restarted the fast, and so yesterday, as I mentioned on the show, that I had to cook for my son, and I'm not as good a cook as some of you, right? So I taste, and so anyway, so as I was cooking, I tasted the food. So and you see my blood sugar, and I don't think it had a big impact, but I'm telling you that story, right? Because the blood sugars are good. But that's what happens in our lives. Most people, their intentions don't fall apart, and I wouldn't call that falling apart, but their intentions don't not work because they don't want them to work. They sometimes don't work because life begins happening. And what Limitless Living says, this path that we're on, it says that life is going to happen. You're going to have times when something disrupts what your plan is. But that's not where we stop. It says that we're not allowing anything outside of us, any situation, or anything inside of us, any of our thoughts, to prevent us from doing what we need to do to be successful in our health and ultimately in all the things that we do. Okay? So with that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars again. So that's my Libre 74 is what my blood sugar is right now. Let's go over to my Dexcom, and as you see, the Dexcom says 96, and Dexcom, my Dexcom, and some of you may find this, tends to be a little bit higher than the Libre, and so right now it's about 20 points higher. What I like about this is I can actually put my finger on the graph, and you can actually see what the blood sugars have been doing over the course of the last day, and you'll see there that it spiked up right there. That was this morning. And here's the thing. So a lot of people say they wake up in the morning and their blood sugars are good, and then as they go through the day, the blood sugar rises. Now, what do you think this spike right here is from? Right? So I went from 100, well, actually in the 90s, went from a 90 up to 128, right? Is the highest that it got. Now that's without food. And so here's it. You want to hear what it is? Toothpaste. Toothpaste. There's sugar in toothpaste. And we don't think about that. So there it is. There is our blood sugar for this morning. Okay? Let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's take a look at my monitors. And I do this so that you can compare, because a lot of people have different monitors. They want to know how do they compare to each other. And here I have a Keto Mojo and I have a Contour. And let's grab out of our handy dandy container. Here is for ketones. Here is for blood sugar, and I need some Lancets. Get those out, put that back. And then here is my strip for the Contour. All right, so the Contour will only give me blood sugar, but the Keto Mojo will give me both blood sugar and ketones. Right. And let's do this. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to open up both of these because I don't want to have to stick myself again. And if I don't, then I've got to rush and try not to let the blood coagulate. All right, so here we go. So let's go ahead and open this one up. And I'm just going to hold this off to the side. Here is my Lancet, and I don't use the lancing device. I just grab a Lancet. I open it. This is a pretty simple one. There's my needle right there. And as you guys know, I've been using these other fingers, and they're kind of callous. So I'm going to use roughly a new one because I used this the last couple of times. Ow, ow, ow. So that better give me a good drop because that did hurt. Okay. All right, there we go. And let's see if we get a good. Oops. I expected a more brisk flow than that, but that's okay. We're going to start with this one. So that's the Keto Mojo. Oh, and I keep, let's see. I think I may have to, okay, there we go. Got a good one. And so Keto Mojo says 71. Let's see what the Contour says. And then I need one more drop. Come on, just a little bit more for my ketones. All right, let's get that started. So 84 for the Contour. And what do you think my ketones are going to be? What do you think my ketones are going to be? So it's been roughly, let's see. It's been roughly 18 hours maybe. Well, actually, no, it's been 36 hours. Okay, boom. So 0.1. Remember ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5, so I'm in the normal range. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis. and then above that is considered therapeutic ketosis. And so when we are fasting or we're using a ketogenic diet, we want ketones that are 0.5 or higher. Okay, 0.5 or higher. And so that is not 0.5 because of the fact that I ate when I was cooking. Now, the other thing that you want to know, so let's go ahead and pop that over here. And so here is what my weight was this morning. And you'll remember, and actually let's go there. You'll remember, and so I've showed this graph before. So here in this one, I think the highest I have, it was a 260 pounds is what I was at that time. And so I don't have it recorded here when I was 287 pounds. So 260 or 287 down to 188 is where I am currently. And one of the things that I tell people is that I don't focus, or I have not been focusing on the weight. What I've been looking at are, and let me pull that up, are these parameters. Let's see, where is that? And the app that I'm using, the app that I'm showing you right now is what's called, okay, here it is. I took a screenshot. I think this was yesterday. So these are the parameters that I track, right? So of course there's weight there, there's BMI, the body fat, fat-free body weight, subcutaneous fat, visceral fat, body water. So these are the parameters that I track. And so the game that I have been playing with myself, and so I've gamified it, is when I started this process, many of those parameters were in the red, right? So they pushed over towards the right. So they were in the red. And shades of green and kind of aqua blue is when it's in target. And so my goal, my drive has been to push those parameters by drinking more water, by exercising, by doing all those things. So not necessarily focusing on the weight, but focusing on those parameters. And as I've done that, what has happened is, as we've had the result of the weight issue, the weight improvement. The same thing here in this space. As we talk about fasting, I want you to know that fasting is a process. Fasting is a tool. And fasting reverses, fasting improves, fasting sets your metabolism aright. And when you do that, right, so we're talking about improving our health. When you do that, the side effect of that is the fact that the weight goes down, is the fact that the blood pressure gets better, is the fact that the blood sugar improves. Right? So you get me? So as we're talking about improving our health in general, and using fasting as one of those tools, that's what we see. Now let's hop over and let's take a look at blood sugars. And so this is my blood sugar. We're going to look at the last 7 days. And there's what my A1C would be if I were to get an A1C. It would approximate 5.9. My average blood sugar over the last 14 days is 107. I'm in target 99% of the time, with our target being anywhere from 70 to 180. Okay, so that's 14 days. If I go and look at the 30-day average, so 104 is what my average is. 5.8 would be my A1C. I'm in target 97% of the time, and same target down here. Now, if I go to 90 days, right, so 6.3 would be the A1C, 124 average, and then in target 85%, in target 85%, with target being 70 to 180. Now let's take a look at our last week of actual blood sugars. Actual blood sugars. And so here we are, blood sugars in the 90s to 100. That's today, going back. Going back yesterday, right? So in the 100s, 80s, 90s. Right here again, there's the toothpaste effect, because look, we're in the 100s, and then woke up, brush your teeth, and we got a spike there up to 115, I think, 122. Okay? All right, going back further, 80s, 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 maybe into the 90s as we move through the day. And then once again, right, so we're in the 90s, woke up, brush your teeth, and then we get the spike up to 111, 113, I think was the highest it got that day. Previous days, right? So the reason I'm showing you this is I want you to see what happens, and you will recall that about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago now, I was able to stop insulin, got off of all medications. We've been fasting now in this space together. We've been doing this a little over a year, and I've been fasting prior to that, prior to us introducing that here on the show. And one of the things that I see for people when they fast, the day after the fast, they're able to eat things that they couldn't eat the day before the fast. Why? Because their body has become more insulin sensitive. That's the beauty of fasting. It improves metabolism, improves insulin sensitivity, right? Because your body is now switching from burning ketones or carbs to burning ketones. All right. So with that with all of that data, and you've seen all of my stuff now, let's get into our discussion about fasting. And I do see, let me hop over and say hello here really quickly. I do see a special guest that popped in, so just wanted to acknowledge and say hello to her. And this is Claudia. Let me pop that up. Here we are. So hello, Claudia. She says, great topic, Doc. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for being here, classmate of mine and friend. So thank you for stopping by. All right. So, and whatever platform you're on, by the way, wherever you are, whether you are on Instagram, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube, we are excited that you are here. Actually, let me do one thing, because I don't think the folks on on Instagram are seeing me right now. Let's see if we can rectify that. Give me just a second. Let's see. Let's go here. All right. So let's see if we can get them on board. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so we'll see. Okay, one more thing. This is the beauty of being live, right? You get to troubleshoot in real time. All right, so I think they should be seeing me right about now. There you go. All right. So everyone should be with us now. All right, so let's go ahead and let's hop into our discussion about fasting. And so why fasting? Why fasting? The reason for fasting is that fasting hits all three of the parameters, all three of the pillars that we talk about when we talk about reversing diabetes. And there are three parameters. Number one, reducing or decreasing insulin. Number two, suppressing the appetite. And number three, reducing sugar. Decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, reducing sugar. Those are the pillars of reversing diabetes. How does that work? Well, when I fast, my blood sugar goes down because I'm not putting any calories, putting any food, putting any carbs in. Right? Blood sugar goes down. When blood sugar goes down, what has to happen? Your body decreases the production of insulin. Or you don't have to take as much insulin if you're on medication. So we've decreased insulin. Because we're not eating, we have reduced our sugar. And when we decrease insulin, because insulin is an appetite stimulant, when we decrease insulin, then our appetite goes down, our appetite improves. So we've decreased insulin, we suppress the appetite, and we reduce the sugar. And you know what? Fasting is free. Right? So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to join anything. It is free. Just at your house, you can decide, you know what? I'm going to try this fasting thing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go anywhere. And so it is something that you can do. Fasting also is versatile. As I mentioned, as this week has gone, I started the fast, got about 33 hours into it, broke the fast, got back into the fast, had life happen, got back into the fast. Notice all of that is a benefit of fasting. that is so versatile that I can pick it up and put it down whenever I need to. You guys heard me say that I do a 72-hour fast once a week, and I usually start on Tuesday. So Tuesday to Friday. So Tuesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, Thursday to Friday. So I break the fast on Fridays. Well, when I'm traveling, when I'm going with the family, right, we tend to leave on a Thursday or Friday, right? Going away for the weekend, going for a long week or whatever it is. And so I will shift my fast to start fasting on Monday. So I get my fasting in as I prepare for what I've got to do for the rest of the week. So most of the time, the meal plans that we're on or the lifestyle that we choose in terms of our food doesn't work not because it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it doesn't fit into our life. For instance, intermittent fasting. Often we'll have people who start their intermittent fasting, they'll start at, say, 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Well, that's great, except that they started at 5 and the family sits down to eat at 6. Automatically, there is friction. So either you're going to continue the fast and feel alienated from the family, or you're going to be stimulated, you're going to have cravings because you're watching the family eat, you're sitting there with them, right? And you're going to be miserable in the fast, or you're going to fuss at the fast, or the fast doesn't work, or you'll stop the fast, or you're going to break the fast because you want to eat with the family. And when you break the fast, if you've not had a right thought about the fasting and what you just did, you're going to feel guilty, feel depressed, and we start beating ourselves up, and we say, okay, fasting doesn't work. The same thing for any of the meal plans that you find out there. And we did shows where we went through not all, but a lot of the diets, Mediterranean and the paleo and the low carb and the ketogenic, right? Those are all of them work, but they work if they fit into your lifestyle. Okay, so as you're picking the thing you want to do, you want to make sure that you're picking something that works for you. So when we talk about fasting, I often talk about fasting in several ways, but we're going to do a review of fasting, what you need to know as we move through the fasting space. And when I talk about fasting, I break it up into 3 components: how we prepare for the fast, how we get into the fast, how we do the fast, and then how do we break the fast. Okay. And what I was supposed to be doing before I got to this was to show you some of the things that I use, and I'm going to do it because I want you to see what my blood sugars are. So let's go ahead and pull that back up. And give me just a second. Let me grab this here. All right, there you are. And let's come back over here. So what I've got on my tray is a salad that I made, and this is actually one of my favorite types of salad. So it has let's see, let me grab this. So it has cherry tomatoes. There's red cabbage. I've got about a half a cucumber. I've got some red onions. I've got some grated cheese, and ranch dressing. It also has some salt, pepper, and a little bit of lemon juice. So you can, right? So you can do this without the ranch dressing. You can do this without the cheese. I chose to eat the cheese, right? And the ranch dressing. And then over here, this is some jerk chicken that I made. I was gonna say I created. Some jerk chicken that I made, and seasoned this with, of course, salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder. I got some smoked paprika in there. There is some cumin, some what we call garam masala is another spice that's in there. And then also the Walker's Wood jerk seasoning mix. So that's what's there. So let me go ahead. I'm going to eat this, right? Because I want you to see what happens to blood sugar. And I should have done this like at the beginning. So as you're breaking the fast, and I guess let's start there. as you're breaking the fast, you want to make sure that you're choosing things that are not high in carbs, highly processed, right? Refined carbs. Because if you do that, when you break your fast with those things, then your appetite, your cravings are going to be supercharged. You're going to want to eat. You're going to want to grab things that are highly processed, highly high in carbs. And so we want to make sure that as we're breaking the fast, we're eating things that are not going to do that. So the highest carb content is, of course, in this salad. This is delicious, y'all. Because pretty much everything in the salad has carbs. But they're not refined carbs, low glycemic index carbs. And then let's go ahead and... So this is what my blood sugar is right now. Delicious. I said a couple of episodes ago that we're going to have a time where we all come together with our food and break the fast together. Now, in my eating window, I try to do a 1 meal a day fast anyway. So I do a 72-hour fast once a week, right? So that's my standard. But that's my fasting time. But on my eating time, I still try to do a 1 meal a day. Sometimes I'll do 2 meals a day, depending on what's going on in the office. We have our team meeting on Tuesdays, which is why I choose Tuesdays after the team meeting to start my fast. Because that counts as my 1 meal a day. And then I just get into the fast. And then 24 or 33 hours later is when we typically do our check-in, our show. If you're out there and you have fasted, what have you broken your fast with? Now, I usually don't use tomatoes to break the fast, or as I'm trying to track blood sugars closely, because tomatoes tend to spike my blood sugar up. For a lot of people, it doesn't, but of the things that are in here, by the way, the thing that's going to spike my blood sugar up the highest is going to be the tomatoes. All right. So, for breaking the fast, here are your considerations. When you break the fast, you want to make sure that you're eating foods that are able to help you maintain good glycemic control. Good glycemic control. And you'll see, as we saw the blood sugars, my blood sugar's 80s, so low 100s. So I tell patients I want their blood sugars to be between 100 and 120 when they wake up in the morning. And then for the rest of the day, when they're eating, when they get to a meal, the blood sugar should be less than 140. So those are your parameters. If you maintain that, you will get an A1C of 7 or less. As a matter of fact, an average blood sugar of 100 gives an A1C of about 5. A blood sugar of 125 gives an A1C of 6. On average. So when you break your fast, what have you used in the past? So my blood sugar is 73. I don't think that's effect of the food yet. Got some water. Delicious. So when breaking the fast, choose foods that help to maintain good glycemic levels, but foods that are nutritious, not highly processed, right? Also, and choose foods that are gentle on the stomach, which is one of the reasons I like salads. That was delicious, y'all. See? All right. So I ate it all. And then let's go ahead and grab some of this chicken. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of this. And so every week I make jerk chicken and I make curry chicken. We like it at our house, so it's a staple. And this is a chicken breast. Now I have tried, by the way, smoking this before, and it is delicious. So blood sugars, 73. I don't think I'm going to eat all of this. All right, so let's get back to her. Right, so gentle on the GI system. You want to do low glycemic index foods. So remember, the glycemic index is the rapidity with which food rises after you eat something, right? How big a spike in carbs do you get? Or in blood sugar, sorry, not carbs. But there are some foods that will spike your blood sugar more quickly because they have a higher glycemic index. So we tell people, when you're looking at the glycemic index, you want foods that have a glycemic index of 50 or less. So 50 or less for glycemic index. You want to do lean proteins, because remember, the proteins will help to keep you fuller longer. You want healthy fats, same reason. Also, the fats will blunt the absorption of carbs. And then you want to make sure that you are hydrated. Right, because remember, coming out of a fast, or in a fast, preparing for a fast at any time really, your body requires fluids. Your body requires fluids to function, to flush out toxins, to be able to send nutrients to your cells. And if that doesn't happen, if you don't have enough volume, then your heart rate will go up because the body has to deliver the same amount of energy with less blood, and so it just makes it work faster. So people feel that as palpitations, feel like their heart's racing, skipping a beat, all of those different things. Okay. So this is what I would break a fast with. Right? So a salad, simple salad, no croutons were in there, right? And it's not that you can't put croutons. It's just that the croutons will cause a bigger spike in blood sugar. And if that happens, then your cravings will increase. And when the cravings increase, and the cravings increase because the insulin had to come out to treat the blood sugar. When the craving increases, now you fasted for 24 hours, 36 hours, 70, whatever the number of hours is, and you end up eating so much that you undo a lot of the benefit that you got during the fast, which is not what we want to do. So we want to make sure that we are doing the best job and getting the best benefit of the things that we are doing. So that's it. I'm gonna stop there. And you see what my blood sugar is at the end of, or the beginning of, I think it was 71. Yeah, let's get this out of the way. Okay, 71, and now 73. And we'll wait to see what that is here in just a minute. Okay, All right, so back to our fasting. So that's how we would break a fast. We break the fast by doing things that maintain good glycemic control, things that are not hard on the stomach, things that will be nutritious. We're going to look at the glycemic index, proteins, healthy fats, and hydration. And this really, if you think about this, and let me go back here for a second. If you think about this, this falls right in line with our balanced bites. Whole foods, minimize processed foods, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, tasty and flavorful, that has to be the case, and portion controlled. Okay? So if you do that, then you are actually following balanced bites, but it also helps in the breaking of the fast because you're all the things that you're eating are now things that will make you have a successful fast. So that's breaking the fast. And I did that first because I wanted to eat the food so that you guys saw what happens to my blood sugar. And we're watching it right now. So the salad had cherry tomatoes, a half a cucumber, just almost, a half of a leaf of red cabbage, just a sliver of red onions. We had cheese, some shredded cheese. We had the ranch dressing, and then some salt, pepper, and lemon juice. So that was what's in the salad. And then you saw I ate maybe half of a chicken breast of the jerk chicken. Okay, so we'll see here what happens to blood sugars as I continue on. All right, so let's hop back over. And so that was the ending of the fast. Let's go back to the very beginning. And let's talk about a very important concept, very important idea. And that is how to get ready for the fast. And often people will say to me, well, Dr. Woode, why do I need to get ready? Can I just stop eating? Well, you can, but if you want to be successful, there is a better way to do it. Remember, fasting is not just about not eating. Not eating is a component of it, but fasting is not just about not eating. And so when we do the fast, we want to make sure we're ready. So how you prepare for the fast determines how successful the fast is. The ultimate success. In fact, you saw me eat the food that I used to break the fast here. That process actually began before I started the fast. Right? So trying to figure out, what am I going to eat to break the fast? Because if I leave it to chance, I'm going to just grab whatever is available. And typically what's available are things that will spike the blood sugar more than I want it to spike, right? So preparing for the fast is very important. Fasting is not just about not eating. There's a physical, mental, emotional component to fasting. And if you're not aware of that, as your body is changing, as the hormones are changing, as you are not able to now use fasting as a buffering behavior, right? You can run into some challenges, not because the fasting is a problem, but because you didn't understand, hey, there are some things that I'm gonna begin facing when I fast. That's why fasting is not just not eating. It's spiritual, physical, emotional, social even, right? Have you? Well, if you've not fasted, you don't know. But if you fasted, and if you're going to fast, and you'll try this, you'll show up somewhere with some family members, with some friends, and you didn't tell anybody you're fasting, but you just came, and everybody will say, hey, try this, eat this, give that, right? And he said, no, thank you, I'm good. And he said, what's wrong with you? I said, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. Well, are you on a diet? Are you sick? So he said, oh, I'm fasting, right? So eventually you tell them I'm fasting. They're like, why are you starving yourself? That's a social component. When we fast, if we are not careful, our social cues will push us off the fast because we're built for community. And so if fasting takes us out of the community, guess what? Fasting goes out the window. But preparing that community, preparing yourself for that process is very, very important. And fasting allows you to determine milestones. So as you're moving through, you're like, okay, this is a fun thing. This is not fun. This is, I expected this. I expected to see this. I expected to feel this. This is what's going on. Ooh, look at my blood sugar. Hey, look at my weight. Hey, look at, right? And you go through that entire process. What are some of the milestones that you're going to be looking at as you're fasting that says, okay, I'm heading in the right direction? So preparing for fasting, great. Preparing mentally is paramount. It is very, very important. We get to set the goals, right? Understand why we're fasting. Because in the fast, say something happens. You're like, man, why am I fasting anyway? Right? I'm going to go eat. Right? You get stressed, you get anxious, you get bored. Remember, the pillars, or not the pillars, but the triggers for our eating come from the heat model: habits, emotions, access, and taste. And so we are triggered by seeing people doing things. Go to the movies and we eat popcorn. We go with some friends to hang out and we have some bagel, cream cheese, we have a muffin, we have coffee, we have tea. You're at your house and somebody comes to visit, you automatically, would you like something to drink? There's the habit. Those are the patterns that we've become used to. So often we don't eat necessarily just because of food. We eat because, hey, that's what we're supposed to do right now. Everybody gets up to go eat, and guess what? There I am. We eat because of emotions. When we're angry, we're frustrated, we're lonely, we're tired, we're bored, we're depressed. And those emotions will push through your decision not to eat. You decided you're going to fast. If you get mad enough, get depressed enough, get anxious enough, if you get stressed enough, if you get bored enough, if you get lonely enough, it will push through the decision. And so our goal is not to fight the food. Come on. Somebody's listening to me. The goal is not to fight the food. The goal is to fix the emotion. Right? So as you're in the fast, you're going to have to face those things now without the food that you normally use to insulate you from the feeling. So that's why fasting is not just about that. It's also emotional. There's access. We eat because of access. Just because stuff is around, we see things. When we see things, then our brain says, okay, let me have some. You didn't think about ice cream all day, and all of a sudden you show up at somebody's house, they have ice cream. Oh, yeah, I want some ice cream. And then we eat because of taste. And taste is a very interesting one because taste encompasses so much. Because we remember things. That's why food is so good to us. Now, there is a virtue, there is some idea of taste, right? So we all like the things that we like. In fact, the bliss point is that point at which the food, when it's manufactured, has the perfect combination of sugar, salt, fat, and sugar, salt, and fat. So when you eat it, you're like, that is so. Oh, I'm gonna have some more of that. That's what I think of, by the way, when I think of Cadbury chocolate. Okay, I'm just being honest. But it reminds me of a different time. Like when I go to New York, right? If I land in New York like right now, I'm going to get three things. I'm going to get a hot dog, a slice of pizza, and some Chinese food. Not that those things are like the best food ever, but that's what my dad used to buy for us. Hot dogs, pizza, Chinese food. So he's been gone now several years. But the memory, I remember that time when I was with that person and I felt that way. So habits, emotions, access, and taste. That's what pushes us. That's what pushes us. Those are the things that trigger us. Those are the things that cause us to not remain on the plan that we said that we're going to be on. And so in the fast, if we're not clear about what we're doing, why we're doing that, then those things will come up and we're off the fast. We want to visualize the success. When I look at my parameters, when I look at my blood sugars, when I look at my A1C and my ketones, when I look at my weight, boom. Okay, that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing this. And limitless living is not a restrictive thought process. It is not a restrictive tool. Limitless living is a lifestyle. It is we talk about rhythm. Let me come over to here because I want to look at you in the eyes. We talk about rhythm, alignment, and structure. Rhythm is the bent of your life. What's the general tone of your life? Where are you heading? What are you about? What is your purpose? What is your function? The rhythm of your life. What is the rhythm of my life? Then what is the alignment? Are the things I'm doing taking me in the direction of where I said my rhythm is? I want to lose weight. Is my stopping by Krispy Kreme and getting the dozen, or stopping at Baskin Robbins, or stopping at wherever your thing of choice, your place of choice, is that taking me in that direction? Are my behaviors aligned with where I say I want to go? I say I want a good relationship, but then I don't spend any time with my significant other. Is my behavior aligned with what I say I want? I want to save money, but I'm not willing to not spend. Is my behavior aligned with what I say I want? Rhythm, alignment, and then structure. Most people don't have difficulty succeeding because they don't have vision, because they don't have motivation, or even because they don't have know-how. They don't succeed because they don't have a structure. Many of you are going to start fasting. The new year comes and you're going to say, man, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get better blood sugars. I'm going to improve some aspect of my life. I'm going to improve my relationship. I'm going to call somebody more. I'm going to visit more. Whatever the more is that you're going to do. Why doesn't it succeed? It doesn't succeed because we rely on motivation and we rely on ourselves to do it. You can't. You don't have the power. You don't have the ability. And it has nothing to do with your willpower or how moral you are. It has everything to do with the things that you put in place to help you do it. So if you're relying on motivation, that's going to fade. Motivation fades. But if every time I get up and I'm walking out the door, there's my gym bag, guess what? At some point, I'm going to grab the gym bag and take it with me. When I fast, it's a good one. When I fast, I don't fast on random days. I don't fast on Tuesday this week, Wednesday the next week, Friday the next week. You know what I do? I have a set time when I fast. I fast from Tuesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, Thursday to Friday. 72 hours. Boom. That's it. Because I have a structure. and putting things in place, very important. So as you're thinking about your fasting, you have to make sure that you do that as well. Visualize it. What is the benefit that I'm getting? Then educate yourself. We talked a little while ago about the different types of fasts, right? Am I going to do a 16-8? Am I going to do a 24-hour fast? Am I going to do a 72-hour fast? What type of fast you're going to do, and what is the benefit of that fast? We did a show, several shows where we talked about different disease processes and the types of fast that you can use to treat those diseases or to improve those diseases. We did several shows where we walk through the different types of fast. So make sure if you're researching that, if you're thinking that, if you need that information, go ahead. It's out on the channel. So find out what is going to happen when I do this fast. What am I supposed to expect? Am I doing a one meal a day? Am I doing fasts that are aligned with my circadian rhythm? Am I doing alternate day fasting? When is my body going to switch from burning ketone or burning sugar to burning fat? How much weight should I expect to lose? And I tell people, for every day that you fast, you should expect to lose between a half a pound to a pound, 1.2 pounds. From 0.5 to 1.2 pounds for every day that you fast. Right? So what am I expecting? And then there's going to be some time when something challenging is going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm telling you right now. If you pretend that it's not going to happen, oh, no. Right? It's going to happen. So what are you going to do? What do you have in place that's going to give you a boost in the moment when you like, man, I think I'm going to break this fast right now. And affirmations. Affirmations are an amazing way of doing that. Write some things out. Get your journal. Put it on the wall. There are some things that I have here on my wall that are not affirmations for my weight or for my health, but they're affirmations for this space that I find myself in. Right? So several years ago, I was in a class, and we had to sign a commitment agreement. It's back here somewhere, here up there. That one right there. Right here. Right? A commitment agreement about what it meant for me to be a content creator. And every time I walk into the studio, it's right there. I look at it, I see it. It says, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is the commitment that I made. Back there, there's a picture that my son and I drew. Right? We're just messing around one day and drawing some stuff. Right? It's not a masterpiece. It's not in a museum, but that's there because it is my commitment to the things I do that are beneficial to him. And the things are the spaces that I find myself or I put myself in so that I can improve, so that I can have more time with that young man. The weight that I lost, the blood sugar that improves, that right there is a push. That's my affirmation. And it's not words. It's just every time I look at that, I'm like, man, I remember when we did that. Right. So what is going to push you? What's going to push you through? So preparation, key. Preparation is very, very much key. And so what do I want you to take away from the preparation part, getting into the fast? One of the important things, actually, I want to mention this before I go there, is the way that you prepare for the fast. The way you prepare for the fast with respect to food is very important. The things that you eat leading into the fast will have a profound effect on the fast itself. If you eat a lot of refined, highly processed, high sugary content food, when you get into the fast is going to be challenging those initial days, those initial hours, because your appetite is stimulated from the things that you just ate. Often people say, well, I'm going to fast, so let me just hurry up and eat a bunch of things because I'm not going to be able to eat it for the next 12, 34, 36 hours. Well, guess what? All the stuff you just hurried up and ate will have a profound effect on what happens to your metabolism in the fast. You heard me say at the top of the show that we want ketones to be 0.5 or higher. Well, if you are trying to get there, and you've eaten a stuff that's highly processed, highly sugary, then it takes longer for your body to process that. So it takes longer for you to get into ketosis. So when you get into ketosis, you may only spend a short time in ketosis before you break your fast. Does that make sense? Okay. So what are some things I want you to take away? So one, preparation is key. You want to prepare mentally? Very, 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 very important. Okay? You want to get good rest, because if you're not rested, then things don't go as well. You want to eat nutrient-dense meals when you are not fasting in your eating windows. How do I say it? So the fasting is not a punishment. And I find myself saying this a lot over the last several days. Fasting is not a punishment. And so when we see fasting as a punishment, what happens is when we get out of the fast, then we reward ourselves because we fasted. Like, man, I fasted for 24 hours. Let me go have some candy and cookies or cake because I want to feel better. Fasting is not a punishment. It is a personal choice that you're making that sets you up for the best possibility of success in a particular space. And fasting itself is the reward. I'm gonna have to write that one down. I'm gonna do a show about that. Right, so fasting is not a punishment. And so when we are not fasting, we still want to be mindful of the things we're eating, nutrient-dense food, not calorie-dense. And then we want to get into community. Community is paramount, y'all. If you are going to be successful, if you're going to be successful long-term, then you want community around you. You want people around you to pull you, push you, support you, encourage you when those times come when you're not quite so sure. Community is of paramount importance. So that's getting into the fast. We've already talked about breaking the fast. And then the fast itself. So what's going on in the fast? So I want to talk about this in 24-hour blocks. We're going to break it up a little smaller than that, though. And I want to spend time really in the first 12 hours of fasting. Okay? We've talked about others before, but I want to spend some time here. The first 6 hours, when you stop eating, is called the postprandial phase. It technically is not even considered fasting. Sometimes I'll say to people, well, how long are you fasting? They say, well, I fasted for 4 hours yesterday. No, it's not fasting. The postprandial period is when your body takes all the food that you've eaten. And remember what metabolism is. Metabolism is the process that your body uses to take food and convert it to energy. That's metabolism. And dysregulated metabolism is what leads to chronic diseases. Those diseases we talk about along the metabolic spectrum, okay? Dysfunctional metabolism, dysregulated metabolism. So the first 6 hours after you finish eating, the body's taking the food and it's chopping it up, right? Chopping it up in your mouth. There are enzymes called amylase amylase enzymes in your mouth, and they begin breaking down the carbohydrates. So you eat a piece of bread, and the enzyme comes out and begins breaking down, and is getting it ready for your body to absorb it. In your body, there are things called lipases. They're breaking down fat. There are proteases in your body. They're breaking down protein. All of that's going on in the first 6 hours. During the first 6 hours, your body is taking the food that you ate and is deciding what to do with it. Some of the food is going to get broken down. Some of it is going to go to run your heart, your lung, your brain, and all the things that has to happen right now to keep you alive, to keep you functioning. Some of it is going to get stored. So I want you to follow me for a second. So if you ate food and the body already has enough to run your heart, your lung, your brain, and to build all the things that you need, then all the food that you eat goes to storage. It's kind of like going to the grocery store. You go to one of the big box stores, right? And so you buy a bag of rice. And we eat a lot of rice in our family, right? So you buy the 50-pound bag. And you come home. And you take that rice and you take some out and you're going to cook some of it. And after you cook some of it, you have leftovers. So you cook some, you ate it. So that's the immediate use. You have some leftovers, you put it in the refrigerator. But what do you do with the big bag? The big bag goes into the pantry. Okay, not a problem. So now you're going through the week, and you just bought that bag on Sunday, by the way. And you're going through the week, and you see a sign that says sale on big bags of rice. And you go back and you buy a big bag of rice, 50 pounds, and you come home. Well, what happens to that? You don't cook it because you've got some in the refrigerator, that's leftovers. And you've got some in the pantry. That's the big bag of rice that you bought on Sunday. So now what do? You take the second bag of rice and you put it in the pantry with the other bag of rice. You've just created storage. And so in our bodies, when there is already enough energy that all the rest of the energy doesn't have to go to run the heart and the lung and the muscles and all the other things, it goes to storage. That's called weight gain. That's called fatty liver, right? That's called high blood sugar. So postprandial period is where all of that happens. And if you have just eaten, let's pick something silly. Well, not pick something silly because I'm going to give you mine. You just ate some Cadbury chocolate, the fruit and nut version. Okay, that's what you ate before you came into the fast. You're like, man, I'm not going to be able to eat for the next 24 hours. So let me eat this Cadbury. And now your blood sugar spikes up. Well, when you get into the postprandial period, your body has to do something with the Cadbury. It has to break it down. It has to deal with the sugar. And much of that is going to get stored. What do they say? A minute on the lifts and a lifetime on the hips. Energy levels are high, right? Because you got all the sugar that just came. Insulin levels are high because you have all the sugar that just came. Now that does two things. Number one, the chocolate or the sugar, whatever, I'm using Cadbury, but the calories from that get stored. But because insulin had to come out, insulin is a storage hormone. Insulin will make your body store more than it should. It just turns the switch on. And let's pretend for a minute that you didn't get into a fast. You ate the Cadbury and you decided, man, I ate the Cadbury and so now I'm going to eat again, but I'm going to be good. Because I ate the Cadbury, now I'm going to be chomping on broccoli. Guess what happens to the broccoli? The broccoli gets stored because insulin says, hey, I need to store it. So you're eating broccoli now and you're putting on weight. You're like, this doesn't make any sense. Well, it's not the broccoli. It's the fact that the insulin came from the Cadbury that you ate earlier. And because I ate the Cadbury, because the insulin spiked, not only does insulin cause weight storage, but insulin also stimulates my appetite further. So if I ate the Cadbury and I get into the fast, I've stopped eating, right, for 6 hours. The insulin is high because of the Cadbury, and now because insulin is high, I'm starting to have cravings. So those first 6 hours during the first postprandial period, before when we get into the fast, those 6 hours can be difficult, not because fasting is difficult, but because of the things we ate prior to coming into the fast that are now stimulating our appetite. So though that postprandial period, very, very important. It is the place where a lot of people stop. Like, I can't do this. I'm too hungry. Well, you're not hungry because you just ate. And most of us have enough storage. We got a pantry that's full That's kind of like having, a pantry full of rice and standing in your kitchen saying, man, we don't have any rice. Yes, you do have rice. It's in the pantry. And yes, you do have energy. It's in the fat cells. So it is not hunger during those postprandial periods. It is my brain telling me that I want to eat. Very interesting. Postprandial period. Okay. And then the next phase is the 6 to 12 hours, right? So we've gone from 0 to 6 to 12 hours. And this is called the early fasting stage. Now, in this process, on this stage, what happens? So in the first 6 hours, the body's broken everything down and it's stored what it needs to. It's sent whatever it needs to the energy to run your brain and your lungs and all those things. And now the blood sugars are starting to go down because the insulin came out and did what it is supposed to do. The energy is now starting to wane. And so your body now turns around and it goes into the refrigerator to get the leftovers. It says to the liver, hey, I sent you some stuff a little while ago. Can you give it back to me now so I can run my body? That process of taking it out of the liver, taking the carbs out of the liver, takes about 24 hours. So here we are 12 hours later, the body's now starting to get stuff out of the liver. But from that point, it takes another 24 hours for that to go away. So 24 plus the 6 hours that we did before, that's 30 hours from the time we ate before our body finally says, okay, I've used up all the stuff that's in the blood. I've used up all the stuff that's in the liver. Now let me turn to burn the fat that's in the body. So that's why we say it takes about 24 to 36 hours to get rid of glycogen and to be in true ketosis. Now you saw here last week that after 12 hours, I think after 21 hours, actually, I was in ketosis. Why is that? Because I became fat adapted. That means I've been fasting for so long, and the things that I ate leading up to my fast, getting into the fast, were of such that my body didn't have carbs to burn, so it was already going into burning the stuff in my fat cells. That's the beauty of ketosis. So this next hour, these next 6 hours, 6 to 12 hours, this is when the body now is going back and is pulling stuff out of the refrigerator and is using it up. And now the stuff, you've eaten the stuff that you cooked, the leftovers now gone from the liver, from the refrigerator, and the body is now starting to say, hey, right, let me start looking at some other places where I can get some stuff from. The insulin levels are going down. Glucagon is coming out. Because as long as insulin is around, by the way, as long as there's insulin, then it's difficult for the body to get into ketosis. Because insulin negates ketones. And your energy levels begin to fluctuate because the body is using up the sugar, using up the glycogen, and it's going down, 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 down. And it hasn't switched over yet to burning fat for ketones. So this 12 hours after you finish eating, the postprandial and the early fasting stage, very important in how successful the fast goes from that point. And it all hinges on how we prepare as we get into the fast. That's amazing to me, the way the body works. Remember, the body's always working, trying to get into homeostasis. That means getting back to normal. Awesome. All right. So let's do one thing. Let's look at my blood sugar. So remember, we started at 71, and so finished eating, and here is my blood sugar now at 80. Right. So we've gone up, and I usually tell people that it takes about an hour or so to see the full effect of blood sugar. And we actually look at blood sugar 2 hours after we eat to see what is happening with it. So we'll take a look at this here a little later and see what's happening based on the salad and the chicken that I ate. all the things that we do are based on our Triple E formulas for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows, with the podcasts, with the blogs. We encourage with or empower with the tools that we learn. How to fast, the 100-day walk to consistency, strength, strategy, and mindset series that we're doing now, balanced bites, how to create a meal, how to be mindful in our eating. All of those are tools that we learn. You can get the information. That's great. I love the fact that you're listening. I love the fact that you're watching. But that does not give power until you infuse it with behavior, infuse it with your action. And the tools are the place, the way that you could take the things that we're learning and apply them to your everyday life, because that's where the important part is. How is it affecting you? How is it changing you? How is it making you better? I'm glad that you're listening. I'm glad that the theory is there. But what change is it making in your personal life? And in your community, by the way. And then we encourage. We encourage with the community that we have. Yesterday, every fourth Thursday, we have our community meetup. We had an amazing conversation with our community members. As we support each other, as we push each other, as we help each other with places we're having challenges. If you want to go somewhere, go by yourself. You may get there. But if you want to be sure to be successful and stay there long, take other people with you. And that's my challenge for you. When you come, I want you to get involved. I want you to be doing these things, putting them into practice in your personal life. And then I want you to let other people know that they don't have to continue having disease processes that are causing blindness, kidney failure, heart attack, stroke, leg amputations. We don't have to keep doing that, because we can create a play. We can create a better choice and make better choices for our metabolism. Awesome. Love it. Now, we will be back on Saturday for Video from the Vault at 9 p.m. Central. On Sunday morning, we'll be back with This Week in Review, 6 a.m. Central. And then on Monday, we'll be right back here for Dwain Woode, MD Live, as we continue our walk through our Limitless Living series, or Limitless Living Pathway, as we continue on this mini-series on the Health Action Plan. That group of things that you can do on a daily basis, practical basis, that you can do that will help you with your blood sugars, with your weight, with your cholesterol, with your high blood pressure, fatty liver, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and on and on and on and on. All of those as we walk through this path. As I always say, I'm glad to be here. I am Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Woode with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives. And limitless living says that I'm not allowing anything to prevent me from doing what I need to do. I am presenting my best self, my best health, and my best plans for my life. I'm breaking free from those boundaries. Nothing outside, nothing inside is going to hinder me from being successful. I look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Have a great one. Bye-bye.